Greetings, this is Professor Inglet, and we are continuing on with Judaism. We ended with mitzvahs, and I wanted to talk a little bit about the rules. Why all these rules? I have some written examples of why here. Let me share my slideshow with you. Showing compassion to the Creator and to other human beings may be why some of the mitzvahs are important. Total submission to God. God is everywhere around us, and the mitzvahs talk about that. If you do something positive like a mitzvah, then there could be character refinement and connection to that concept. There could also be a connection to the spiritual world by following the mitzvahs, so divine essence. There could be spiritual energy channeled to the physical realm due to following the mitzvah. And finally, bringing godliness or emanations of God into this world is a connection to some of the mitzvahs. Ultimately, human beings have free choice. Man is responsible for his actions, whether he is awake or asleep. And I like the Jewish viewpoint of the soul. It's a little bit more complex than it's not more complex, but it's different than Christianity and Islam in some ways. There are two words. There's the Yetzer Tov. That means your moral conscience. Then there's the Yetzer Ra, the spiritual nature or the selfish nature of individuals. Carl Jung might call the Yetzer Ra, the selfish nature, the id. The selfish nature is not sinful as long as it is controlled by the moral conscience. So these interplay with each other. We can be greedy, but we cannot act greedy. So the mitzvah is do not act greedy. As long as you think it, it's okay. As long as you don't do it, then hey, you're not breaking the law. We can be lustful, but do not act upon that lust. Again, there has to be some kind of action that occurs before we reach the concept of sin. Just thinking about something is not a sin, according to Jewish traditions. That should be freeing, right? In Judaism, Satan is not a devil or a fallen angel as represented in Christianity. Satan serves as God's prosecuting attorney. So he calls you on your sins, so to speak. In the Garden of Eden, the Satan questions Adam and Eve, and some scholars say it's not Satan at all, it's just a snake who questions Adam and Eve. From a metaphorical perspective, the Satan attacks our Yetzer Ra, our selfish nature, and tries to break us down and see if we are really devoted to God or not. Also, there is no original sin concept in Judaism that comes from Christianity, really St. Augustine, and others. The story is read as an element of free choice. That's the Garden of Eden story, and not the fall of humans. God breathes his breath into us and forms us into his own image. So the soul is the image of God. So we have this. If you're Jewish, we have this connection that we are similar to God in the fact that we have a soul that he made us in his image. The soul is an undiminished expression of the Creator. So God does somewhat exist within the self with this concept of the soul. There's the connection. There's the emanation. There's the immanent element. At our core, we are good. A person may sin, but the soul always remains pure, untainted by sin. It's not the soul that gets tarnished. It's the selfish nature that is tarnished, not the soul. The soul's pure, according to Judaism. Jewish heritage is matrilineal. So if you want to convert to Judaism, or you marry into Judaism, it's very much a matrilineal process. Circumcision happens. That's God's covenant with Abraham. the circumcision. It's representative of that. It occurs 8 days after the birth of the child. I had my children circumcised within 24 to 48 hours of birth. So theirs takes a little bit longer, and a rabbi shows up and may or may not do the circumcision. Typically, I assume it's done by a doctor these days, and the rabbi maybe does the blessing, but it depends on the tradition. Our unconditional covenant with God, so the circumcision is the covenant with God. The Talmud says, I cannot exchange them for any other people. Unconditional connection to the one we love, standing beyond reason. All of this is thematic of the circumcision. It's pretty interesting. Mutual responsibility. Each Jew bears responsibility to other Jews. And again, circumcision is a communal process. You cannot convert necessarily. You can, but it says no conversion, but all ethical monotheists are beloved by God and will gain a place in the afterlife. So if you're a Christian, Jews are fine with that. If you're a Muslim, Jews are also fine with that. There is no sense of conversion from a traditional standpoint, from an Orthodox standpoint. However, you can convert, and they'll take you through a structure. You know, it sometimes takes up to 3 years to convert to Judaism, or longer. Moses Maimonides, I never can say his name correctly. He writes, any person from any nation who is moved to dedicate his life to God is considered holy of the holies, and God will be his portion forever. Many sects do accept non-Jews, baptize them, circumcise them in, and give them a Jewish name. So it does happen. A controversial word is the chosen people, the chosen one, Jews as the chosen one. What does that mean? It's a burden, really. And Moses said, the Lord your God has chosen you to be a special people to himself above all peoples upon the face of the earth. Why? To spread monotheism. That's the chosen people concept, is they're supposed to spread monotheism throughout the world. That's it. That's the mitzvah, spread monotheism throughout the world. Jews are not better than others, but are here to fulfill God's particular mission on this earth. In fact, this mission can be seen as a burden instead of superiority. Holiness is another theme within all religions. You shall be holy, for I, the Lord your God, am holy. Elevating your human actions and eternal thoughts toward God, that makes you more than a human. The Jewish almost middle way. Holiness does not mean complete denial of the physical world, nor does it mean complete acceptance of desire. A Jewish man cannot touch anything his menstruating wife touches, but this concept should increase the desire for love after menstruation completes. That's kind of a weird example right there with holiness, but it's very much a holy process. Menstruation, circumcision, all of this is holy. And women are viewed as holy in terms of the menstruation. It's a taboo. Menstruation's a taboo. The man is not supposed to touch anything the woman sits on, like a chair. So if I sit in a chair and my wife, I'm not married, but if I were married and my wife were menstruating, then I would not sit in that chair. That's holiness. Moving right along, we have a picture here of Israel. You can see its connection or relationship between Egypt and Jordan, Syria, Lebanon, some of the other countries around it. The land of Israel is holy. It was chosen by God as the place in which he would manifest his glory, and that his holiness remains for all time. The temple was the source of spiritual light, and its purpose was to beam out into the wider world. So imagine a humongous candle right there in Israel, spreading light to the entire universe. this idea of monotheism and devotion to God. If the temple is not in Israel, then the Jews fell at giving spiritual light to the entire world. That's one view. There are other views. Many Jews view Israel as a condition for sharing ethical monotheism with all cultures. However, many Jews also believe the temple exists within the soul and not a physical place. There is the theme of exile. Lots of themes of exile and redemption within the Jewish tradition. There is the exile of Jews over history represents their own struggle for abandoning God, the Torah, and the mitzvah. Throughout the Torah and the Tanakh, you have examples after examples of the prophets saying, we lost our land because we are bad, because we have abandoned God, because we've abandoned the Torah, we've abandoned the mitzvahs. There is that theme that plays out throughout the prophets. However, many Jews view the diaspora as a chance to illuminate God's word across cultures. So God can exist in Greece, in Europe, in Germany, within Europe, in the United States, so the diaspora or this exile element of the Jewish culture can be more than a curse, it can be a blessing. Once spiritual harmonization of all cultures occur, the final temple arises and completes humankind. So at some point in the future, there will be a final temple that spreads monotheistic elements throughout the entire world, and there will be peace and harmony and no weapons of mass destruction. That would be a nice world to live in. Most Jewish sects believe a Messiah will help redeem the Jews. And I asked the rabbi, female rabbi actually, about this concept, and she said that we're not in a hurry or in a rush to meet the Messiah. I thought that was an interesting view on a way to handle that question. Moses Maimonides established 13 principles of Jewish faith. Belief in existence of, so if we want to talk about what are the themes, we've already talked about some of the themes, but he also has some themes. Also look at his hat, he's wearing a turban, so it's you can't really judge history. You see turbans with sequoia, the Indian as well. It relates to his origin. So anyway, 13 principles of Jewish faith: belief in existence of creator, unity of one God, so monotheistic. God is not physical. God is first. We must serve God directly. God bestowed on prophets God's active intellect, so we can understand God through human intellect and understanding. Moses spoke directly to God without angels. We believe that was important. Torah is from heaven. Torah is complete. God judges our actions. God rewards the good with heaven and others with spiritual excision. So you're excised from heaven. There's no hell. It's important to note that in this particular viewpoint. The Messiah will come, and there's a resurrection of the dead. So we have similarities between Christianity and Islam. The main difference here is Jews do not believe in a hell. If you do bad deeds, you don't enter heaven. Where are you? That's a good question. That's a philosophical question. I'll let you look for that answer. There are some different organizations with sects, denominations. Orthodox Judaism is one of them. That's the oral and written Torah are divinely authored, they believed, through Moses. There's a diverse group of Jewish culture. There's modern Orthodox and there's more liberal. There's the ultra Orthodox, which is very traditional. And you see the ultra Orthodox here in this picture. Haredi Jews, no modification of Jewish laws to meet contemporary society, including limited contact to the outside world. So the Haredi Jews do not interact with other religious traditions and human beings. So that's an Orthodox view. Hasidics, less focus on rituals and more focus on worship. So the Hasidics are more emotional, having more of an emotional connection to God. They also live separate from society. So a lot of the Orthodox Jews do live separate from society, and many don't. There's an Orthodox Jewish place here in Oklahoma City. I've never actually been to that one. There is conservative Judaism, originally a reaction to Reform Judaism. They believe the oral and written Torah not divinely authored, but inspired. So the word conservative doesn't necessarily mean what you think it does. It means more that they conserve the elements of traditional Judaism, and they also live in the modern world. The Torah adapts to cultures and time periods. So there's a progressive element to conservative Judaism. A conservative implies conserving the Jewish values, but adapting to historical developments. Women can be rabbis. Gay and lesbians can be rabbis as well. And the community, the conservative community, has to vote on whether they accept homosexuality within their tradition. Some do, some don't. It depends upon the particular group. Reform Judaism is the more progressive element to Judaism. The Torah is divinely inspired, but not authored by God. So there's some inspiration, but not authored. Focus is on improving the world. A Jew can be Jewish by mother or father. So it breaks with the matrilineal line. First movement to ordain female rabbis. Full participation of gays and lesbians in synagogue life and society at large. You can type Reform Judaism and type homosexuality, and they will continue to be very, very actively involved in making sure that the gay and lesbian population is part of their community. Origin of life story is symbolic and not literal. So the creation story, it's just a story. It's symbolic. It didn't actually happen. Does not adhere to a Messiah concept. So within the Reformed Jewish tradition, some will believe in Messiah, some won't. It depends upon the individual. Abortion should not be taken casually, but it is a woman's decision, must happen within 40 days of conception. So abortion, that's a pro-choice movement there. And individually, they're going to, Reformed Jews are going to have different viewpoints, but this is one viewpoint of the Reformed Jewish population. Then we have the Reconstructionist Jews, belief in God or no God. Some of them are atheists. Some Jewish law viewed as mythology rather than ritual. Did Moses actually exist? That's a question the Reconstructionists would ask. They might say it's legendary, it's mythological, and didn't actually happen. They would look to science and scholarship to decide whether that viewpoint is true or not. Again, that's the Reconstructionist viewpoint. Adherents should choose how they worship based on the evolution of Judaism. God did not choose the Jews, so they don't really believe in the concept of the chosen person. Judaism is an historical and cultural development and not simply ethical monotheism. Uses gender-neutral language in reference to God and might even call God female. All people are accepted within the community. So that's the very different views from the sects of Judaism to ultra-Orthodox to very liberal. And so you cannot say that this is what Jews definitely believe. You have to go with what the sects are thinking. The same with Christianity in many parts, although the main themes tend to be the same. Here we have a Jew celebrating Hanukkah. We have the candles above in Munich, Germany. Here we have a dome, a Sephardic synagogue in Jerusalem. I like to show the domes in all the various religious traditions, even going to Japan and looking at how they structure the architecture of the sect and religion. And we have a family celebrating Passover. They celebrate it in their homes, and they're reading the Passover story simultaneously. So we see a connection to community and communal participation within the Jewish tradition. Finally, we have the sad story of the Holocaust, of course. I'm not going into detail of that. You can read that in your textbook. Here we have a Holocaust memorial service in Illinois as part of the remembering of what happened in Germany and what could happen anywhere in the world, this idea of genocide. Thank you for listening to my PowerPoint on Judaism. I hope you learned some things today. Have a good day.